So anyway, guys, let's take a look. This is U.S. Army Sniper breaks down his field combat gear.
Dominguez, and what I have here is a typical sniper loadout that I would take on most missions. Here I have the M2010 enhanced sniper rifle. It is equipped with a Mark IV variable scope from 5 to 25 power.
A 25 power scope is huge. By the way, if you've never done any shooting, like a 10 times scope feels pretty tremendous. But, you know, designing a sniper rifle is really tough because there are rifles designed for very long-range shooting, but they are treated like precision instruments, which they are. So being able to design a system that can be so precise that it can fire a bullet consistently the same way on the same trajectory, right, and be utterly predictable while still being like carried in a field, lugged around, dropped, tossed, thrown, you know, and just sort of given the regular rough treatment of combat is pretty incredible. And it's a testament to sort of material science and the like that you can produce sniper rifles that can reach out past 1,000 meters.
In front of it, I have an AN PVS 30. It lets me see at night with a see-through, so it doesn't interfere with my reticle. It's effective out to 1,200 meters. Notable feature is that I have a collapsible buttstock that helps me for transportation. The gun can hold a 6-round magazine. Here on my left, I have a M110 semi-automatic sniper weapon system.
Okay, so this is what's interesting too. Someone asked, is there any sniper rifle that has barely any recoil or no recoil? And the answer is no, because of how rounds work. I mean, first off, a M4 or M16 system has barely any recoil, honestly. Like you could, and I've seen it done, right? I had a drill sergeant that did it, where you could hold the weapon against your crotch, if you know, and pull the trigger again and again. And it just isn't that much force, right? And his point of doing that was to illustrate that, yeah, this isn't like it's a pop and it's startling because it's sudden, but it's not dangerous to you, the user, recoil. So yeah, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, as Telrune points out. Yeah, Newton. But you have this it's not about speed, it's about energy, right? So you have a bullet, and so you have an explosion, and that explosion basically, some of the energy gets transferred into the big rifle system, and half of it gets transferred into the bullet. Well, a bullet weighs, let's say, 1/10,000th of the weight of the rifle itself, which means that the bullet is going to have more of that kinetic energy as velocity, whereas your rifle system, because it's bigger, is going to have a much lower velocity. Sort of like how if I took the engine from a sedan and I somehow put it on a moped, that moped would haul ass. But if I put the same engine in a cargo truck or a pickup truck, then it would barely move the truck. The truck probably wouldn't even make it up the hill, like a loaded pickup truck. I mean, have I ever fired a sniper rifle? Yes. It was a DMR. Actually, I've fired a DMR.
It is also equipped with a Leopold Mark V, 3.5 to 18 power magnification. On top of this is a Storm mounting bracket with a Storm SLX, also to aid me with night operations, and also is equipped with a laser rangefinder.
Yep. So the thing that they don't tell you about sniping is that it's a lot of math. It's a lot of math. And if you haven't done you've got to understand the round you're firing, the conditions it's going to be traveling through, the air, the humidity, the exact changes in elevation before you make that engagement, right? It's a very practical sense of applied math. And what's funny is the way the military teaches this math, they don't really teach you a lot of the why. They just teach you what to do and to repeat this procedure again and again.
For ranging targets. It can also holds a 10 to 20 round magazine chambered in the 7.62 millimeter ammunition.
So again, you notice they love firing standard 7.62 rounds. And it's true, 7.62 NATO is a nice, powerful round, and it's definitely convenient to be able to use a standard round in multiple different weapon systems. That said, because sniping is a it's a word I want. It's a precision art. It's a precision military, tactical event, or long-range precision shooting. It requires to be done properly. It requires special rounds. You have to have rounds, and they're not different. They're just consistently manufactured, right? Because if you're talking about a machine gun round, well, if one round has 5% more powder, or weighs, 5%, the bullet weighs 5% more, it's not a big deal. It's a machine gun, right? It's more of a average of everything you shoot. Whereas hey, thanks for the 3-month sub, my man. Yeah, Sackmaster. Thanks for the sub, dude. I really appreciate it, man. Glad to have you guys on board. So yeah, because it's such a precise art, you have to, those 5% differences in powder or in bullet weight, they make a real difference, because if you're a sniper, right, you get one shot to kind of make it count. And so you want to make sure those bullets are manufactured in a really consistent way. So there are military grade, marksman grade rounds. Like military marksman grade rounds that you can that this guy will use, right? And I don't know if they use them in training, but they definitely use them in combat and field operations.
Here's my rucksack that I would use for most sniper operations. This would have my standard load. So depending on the amount of equipment that I have in here, I can be anywhere from 35 to 65 pounds without water. So we have a fighting load and an approach load. The fighting load is really gonna hold me for that 3 days or less. And the approach load is what I'm gonna use for extended durations. Easily accessible on the outside.
Yeah, 65 pounds without water is tremendous. Again, if you've ever done it, you know that a 35 to 40 pound backpacking ruck is a heavy load. And doing 65 pounds is pretty phenomenal, especially if you're talking about rough backcountry.
I have a ghillie suit that I can use to help me for my infiltration. This particular configuration is set for a rural environment. On the back of the ghillie suit here, I have artificial camouflage known as jute. I also have incorporated 550 cord or paracord that allows me to tie down larger pieces of vegetation. In here I have hair ties that helps me hold in smaller or shrubs of grass. Things I would need to fill in the gaps also when I have the larger plants. When it comes to camouflaging and blending in, a ratio that we go off of is 30-70, 30% of this artificial and 70% natural.
Okay, this is all news to me. Obviously, I've never had to do ghillie suit stuff. As MPs, there's an expectation that you will not be doing infiltration. You shouldn't be in a place where you can't be seen. Just sort of like law enforcement on the civilian side, right? Being seen is just seen as an intrinsic risk of the job. You have to be seen being around, doing your thing. Even in a conventional war, military police handle route reconnaissance or like what they call rear area security. So countering irregular forces, partisans, special forces, or you can also fight delaying actions. But usually if you're fighting like retrograde actions and running a delay, you don't need to be tactical for that. You need to be tactical. You don't need to be camouflaged, right? Being undetected is the opposite of what you want in a delaying action. A delaying action, you want to continuously be hitting the advancing enemy, right? Continually just causing trouble for them. Think about, well, like the Russians, right? You blow up a lead tank, it stops the column for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, it stops the column for 2 hours, and then they get rolling again. And then you want to hit them again, right? And that's sort of the idea there, is that you, but none of it involves being camouflaged or anything like that.
And what that does is...
Not to this extent. Again, maybe you'd want to like run an ambush, but it would be like a hasty ambush. You'd set up, get a little bit of camouflage in your fighting positions. Again, hit and withdraw and get set to hit you, run your ambush or run another type of attack back further still.
It lets me rely heavily and adapt to my environment that I'm currently in, and the artificial is just more of a filler. Same thing here for the ghillie pants. I also have included a zipper for ease of access so I can leave my boots on when taking them on and off. Reinforced stitching in the front, also with canvas or Condura. That helps me protect it and the durability of it. So when I'm low crawling or lower movement.
That's interesting how it's designed to be done from the prone, right? There's not going to be any kneeling or standing shots.
Movement patterns. Typically, a sniper will have 2 or 3 depending on the environments that they work in. I can have one for urban specifically, or I can have one for rural. Easily accessible right on top. I have my Bushnell tripod, also with my sling. It helps me for transportation if I'm carrying it. So the tripod I can use to hold an observation device, such as my M151 spotting scope, or I can have my gun clip in here as well. I can use it to assist me in standing or kneeling shots. Here's the spotting scope that I would use for observation. It clips right into the adapter, much like a camera would on a tripod. The magnification.
That may actually be a camera tripod. I know Bushnell is a very highly regarded optics manufacturer, and it's funny now. I think there's dedicated like rifle combat optics manufacturers, but in the old days, it used to be that you would have high-end optics manufacturers who did like camera lenses would also be one of the few industries with the precision equipment needed to produce scopes, right? Scopes whose distortion was so precisely manufactured that it didn't distort the image and that it allowed repeatable precision shots.
On this is variable from 12 to 40.
If you're wondering about his t-shirt, okay, the t-shirt, you also notice he has a sniper patch on the top of his hat. He, I think, is an instructor at the schoolhouse. And when you are an instructor in some of these courses, oftentimes the Army will allow you to have unofficial like tabs. The only official Army tabs that you're allowed to wear regardless of unit are the Ranger tab, and you earn that by completing Ranger School, and the Special Forces tab, which you earn by completing your Special Forces qualification course. Once you earn those, the Army can't take them away from you, and they follow you regardless of unit, even if you reclass to a different MOS entirely. But other instances, for example, being an instructor at sniper school, you will get a sniper, you'll have a sniper tab, you'll have the sniper shirt, and they'll probably give a tab to everyone who graduates as like a graduation thing, but maybe within their units, they'll be allowed to wear them sometimes. But in the larger Army or for like formal events or on like an official DA photo, you won't be allowed to wear it.
And this is what I use to aid my shooter getting on target and observe.
Someone asks, are there such things as are there thermal scopes? Yes, totally. We did have some thermal scopes while we were deployed. We generally would not mount them to our weapons. We would use them sort of like how he's using this tripod. We'd use them to get a sort of lay of the land and try to get intelligence, try to get a little bit of a preview of coming attractions, right? We do reconnaissance on routes ahead of us, on buildings ahead of us. Often at night, especially, you want to know if someone is trying to approach your position at night. And by using, obviously, your regular vision, night vision device, standard night vision devices like the PVS 14s and PVS 7s. And then you also use the thermals. And between the 3 of those, right, you can actually learn, you can, it's hard to sneak up on somebody, like really hard.
In the what we call trace and the fall on for the target engagement. I can also, in an observation setting, I can have this for literally that static observation, help me magnify in if need be to positive identification, or just get a better picture of what's going on at further distance. Here's our Ashbury tripod, another tripod that we can use for lower level of observation, such if I'm laying in the prone or in a hide site.
Yeah, a hide site, I think, is like a small fighting position that's camouflaged. And I think a sniper hide site is a specific doctrinal thing. We would just use fighting positions And we wouldn't, honestly, I don't think we ever trained to even dig a fighting position, but doctrinally you would dig something that's like 18 inches of dirt, and you would then use existing sort of camouflage and cover to blend in with the environment.
So this also would hold my M151 spotting scope. It just clips in with this adapter piece as well. Here's a hog saddle. This right here will clip on with an adapter to my M1 or my Bushnell tripod. What this does is allows me to place an optic or my weapon in here, again, to help lock in my standing or kneeling positions.
So this would be a really common setup that you'll sometimes see in even like old videos of GWAT. Designated marksmen or snipers, right, would set up on rooftops and provide overwatch that would give them a great field of view of everything that was happening in the street and cityscape below the unit. So yeah, these tripod systems can be excellent
for shooting.
Especially because oftentimes roofs would have large sort of like barriers around the edges of them that you could actually set that tripod, and to an external observer they would only see like the top of a helmet and a rifle.
Big tool that we use and rely on is a clipboard. One that holds all my documents or sketches, logs that I would use on a patrol. I have a weather flap here, so I use that to protect it from the elements when I am actively writing or sketching. In sniper school we're very analog because it has a redundancy. So in the event that I don't have a camera or it goes down, I have the ability to sketch an observation area or objective area. I also have...
Right. I mean, definitely the military is looking back a little bit. It realizes some of its technologies that it absolutely relied on in GWAT in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan can be liabilities. For example, we had a basic form of SATCOM, a GPS tracker that would broadcast up, it was a GPS tracker, right? And it's not terribly unlike the one from your car. But Warlock asks, are snipers trained to draw? Yes, they are trained to draw a specific way. It is actually what we would call like a sector sketch. So they are trained to get distances between terrain, to sketch key enemy objectives, to look at the terrain and record important militarily relevant details. And so, yeah, that's why they have these elaborate things. The other thing is you cannot hack a piece of paper, and you need to know how to do things this analog way because, a potential adversary could knock out GPS. If you're on a very, very long mission, batteries become a factor, battery life. And so, yeah, the ability to just do things in the analog way can be very valuable. Again, look at, for example, look at Russia, where a lot of their troops are struggling to get supplies, even basic supplies. So it could be a situation where they simply say, hey, listen, you still have to do sniper operations, but we can't get you fresh batteries for your camera, for your laser rangefinder. Like, you still have to be able to operate.
I have multitude of pens and markers.
Nice. Thanks to Poff Daddy for hitting level 12. Congrats, maybe. Do you have a hat preference?
Markers, pencils.
Proof that we are exactly 30 minutes in, so it doesn't cost you anything, and it's an entertaining game. The graphics are really good. They definitely put the work into the graphics, and it's nice because it's not so high intensity that you can't hang out and kind of watch this. Okay, anything that makes me look slick. Well, there's only one option there. Hold on. Obviously, the Soviet Admiral's hat. It doesn't get any more preposterous than this. Let's see. Can I even? Okay, there we go. AKA the Commissar's hat, right? If you're a fan of 40K, you know exactly what this is. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Having a calculator is handy because that will help me with the mill relation formula that I use. Mill relation formula is a math problem that we will use to figure
A mill relation formula is a math problem. I appreciate this. Yeah.
out distance to a target. So it takes the constant of 25.4. I times it by my target size in inches, and then I divide that by the mill reading that I have, which will give me my distance in meters. Most snipers will have either 100-mile-an-hour tape or electric.
Okay, that sounds insane. Why? Because, I mean, the constant is probably helping you convert, but I want to point this out. This takes target size in inches, and it gives you your distance in meters, right? Which is probably what this 25.4 is. It's probably helping convert those two. But it's necessary, right? Because it... That's what Americans know, right? I know how tall a person is about, right? A 6 foot tall person is going to be 70 inches, 72 inches, right? So I know if somebody is taller or a little shorter, I can reasonably figure out their size in inches. Similarly, if you're, because, you know, it's a sniper, your weapon hits people. So your target size is going to be a person, you know, height in inches, that's easy. But your scopes, your weapons, and everything else the military does is, oh yeah, Telrun points out, yep, 2.54 centimeters per inch. Exactly. So that's this exact conversion.
Distance in meters. Most snipers will have either 100-mile-an-hour tape or electrical tape. It's more of a, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. A tape measurer also. I need to know target size in inches. If I have something on the spot that is near me, which is the same out in distance, I can use that as a reference point.
Oh, that's a really good point. So you can actually get the target size in inches. I mean, you can obviously estimate, right? If you know the average height of a person, you can ballpark it. But again, close doesn't count in sniper operations. And it's a really good point. He says, hey, listen, I know that he's standing right next to a BMP3, and if you know the height of a BMP3, then you're set. Or even if it's something silly like he's standing next to a spool of electric wire, you know, then yeah, you can get that info.
And if I had maps or any other topographical aids that I would use, that would be in here as well.
One of the things that I really like that he does in his speaking, and it's probably a testament to him being an instructor, is that he doesn't go or he stops, searches for the word, the exact right word, and then speaks, right? That's a sign, I think, of a good professional instructor. Also, Cloaker, it's called electric tape because electricians will use it to bind wires together.
Readily accessible, I like to have a multitude of rear bags or shooting bags. They call it a rear bag because of the position that I hold it. It goes at the end of the buttstock, and I will use my non-firing hand to hold it. And it helps me make those real finite, minute adjustments, raising or lowering in elevation. A lot of people will make these by putting popcorn kernels, airsoft beads. You can get these professionally made, or you can make them yourself.
Poker's like, are you allowed tattoos in the military? Hell yeah, you are. Just can't have them. When I was in, you couldn't have them on your hands. Actually, that's not true. I knew guys, again, when I was in the military, was willing to give a lot of waivers for things, and they wavered people with hand tattoos. I knew excellent soldiers actually with hand tattoos. One of them actually came in because he had been, him and his friends had been dealing coke in, I won't say what city, but a major US city, and in the Midwest. And then he's like, man, some of my friends were getting arrested. And he's like, I had to get out of town. So I thought they definitely wouldn't look for me if they saw I was a military policeman. And so he signed up for the MPs, was excellent, actually. Was like sort of a prodigy, right? And then when he got back from deployment, like obviously had a sterling thing. He applied to become a warrant officer and then became an Apache pilot. Not making that up. Jacob Fawn asks, can you be in the military with ADHD or autism? Officially, no. Are there soldiers that I saw that I think had like probably met the clinical definitions for autism or ADHD? Maybe, but only a very mild case of it, right? Like so much so that it was non-functional and that they were able to like complete high school without, complete like conventional high school and that sort of thing. So that's a good rule. Like if you can, generally speaking, you can do fine in the military if your condition, neurological condition, mental illness, if it can get you to like graduate high school without too many issues, you probably would be okay. Depending on the job, you might, but even, anyway, the point is, I knew people that I probably would have met the definition if they had been like honest, and still did fine in the military.
Always have to have an MRE in the bag too. So these are meal ready to eat. Come with a main side, our main dish. There's a side carbohydrate, starch, and a protein item in here as well, and loads of snacks too. You can find Skittles, cookies, and other juice beverages, powders. I currently have the meatballs and marinara sauce. It is one of my personal favorites. Here in my bag, I have extra M2010 magazines that I would use just in case one of these breaks or I get a resupply. I have magazines to load those bullets up.
Interesting.
Here's a Kestrel 5700. This is a Kester anemometer.
So some of that may actually be a stealth thing. Loose rounds tend to clatter and make a lot of noise together. So he may be like, if I get extra rounds, I want them in the magazines so they don't clatter around as much.
It's a weather station along with applied ballistic software in there. This is what I will use depending on the specific round that I'm firing. This will give me the data I need to engage target at distance.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
I also have here standard issued cold weather gear that I would need for the temperature changes that might happen in the evening. We refer to these as a waffle top and a waffle bottom. We say waffle just because of the pattern that it has. You
guys know, if you've been on any of my streams, you've seen I still wear my waffle tops and waffle bottoms. Those things are top notch. They're just excellent gear, truly. Also, welcome Cute Cat Live. And we are having a great stream. Yeah, I love the waffle bottoms. I think they're great. And this is a staple of every backpacker on Earth. They call it mid and outer layer. That's how backpackers think of it. And that's sort of how the military thinks of it as well, though the military has a couple of extra layers for additional insulation in really extreme conditions where a backpacker wouldn't be caught dead. Okay, I'm going to take off this hat. I feel like it's been 10 minutes. And we got to be ready for the next person to hit level 12 so that they can pick their crazy hat or mask, right? But yeah, so basically a backpacker will say you've got what you're wearing, then you have a mid layer, so a warming insulating layer, and then you have an outer layer, which is almost always waterproof.
Are they comfortable?
They're okay. Next I have really accessible is my wet weather gear, because for that inclement weather or when it starts to rain on me, this will help keep me dry.
This is outer.
There's the parka and the trousers that I have. The great features on these two is that,
believe it or not, I still have this OCP, the OCP pattern parka, and I literally would just keep it rolled up and in the very bottom of my work backpack. And yeah, the work backpack just whenever it rained in the city, I just threw it on and just kept on walking.
they are also accessible for me to put these on with the zippers that I can put them on while wearing my pants and boots still. And the parka usually comes oversized, so that I can still have my combat fighting equipment on without having to change anything.
Yeah, I also take that parka out for backpacking.
Another thing I like to have on the outside, also easily accessible, is the poncho. This is what I will use when I cache my ruck. I can put this over to keep it dry, and I can also use it for a shelter if need be.
Yep, the poncho, another backpacker's friend. I use my old Soviet poncho because it's actually a waterproof canvas. It's not the tarp. It's a little heavier, but it's so much tougher and more resilient. But when he talks about caching his ruck, that means it's when you wrap the ruck in the poncho so that it's waterproofed, and because the poncho is camouflage, it camouflages your ruck, and then you put it in like a bush, or you put a little bit of like grass or whatever over it to further camouflage it, but you want it to be somewhere that you can find again. So it has to be sort of near a fairly visible waypoint.
In addition to what I would carry, I would be wearing a ballistic helmet and a ballistic plate carrier. Inside here, I'm equipped with ballistic plates that are able stopping certain calibers around. You'll see here magazine pouches and spots for my radio. The ballistic helmet that we have here, there's Velcro all over it. It's noted for using IR strobes or beacons used to signal your position to other entities that have night vision. Snipers typically would not use anything of that nature unless we were using it on an exfiltration because we're trying to keep a low signature and low visual presence.
Yep, it's true. It's one of the things that, again, you have to think about in modern combat. You see with Russians, you know, you want to think about the Russian military as being sort of the conventional threat that the U.S. is looking to counter. China follows a Russian-like military doctrine. So yeah, like Russia is a good example of this paradigm. And yeah, they have IR sensors, they have thermal sensors. So you want to be able to keep your low profile if, again, you're operating outside of, you know, outside of the main lines of battle.
Moving along towards my more survival tools that I would have, I have a water purifier right here. So
this is a huge water purifier.
In the event that I had to egress or escape and evade, I have the means to purify my own water. When I fully open this up, it attaches to a Nalgene bottle. The hose goes into my water source, and there's a pump on here and would go through the filtration into the Nalgene bottle. Fortunately, I have not had to use this.
Yeah, that is huge. I mean, I'll show you my Sawyer Mini. It's about this big, but it functions the same way, right? Now, you need to also have a second impure water bottle to use, to attach, right? Because it's literally filters from the gray water bottle to the pure water bottle, right? But yeah, it functions fine, and it's way more compact. It's funny, looking back, like the soldier in me sees why he's bringing all these things, but the backpacker, like backpacking culture just prioritizes lightweight because you move faster and you get ground out. Whereas the military says, hey, we can add more weight, we'll just make you carry more of it. And to me, that's sort of, to me, I think that's a little bit of like a problematic thing, because even a soldier, right? If you have to ruck into combat and then go through the intense experience of fighting, you're going to underperform than if you had a lighter ruck that didn't wear you down so much to carry it.
Survival knife here, I would use this to help me, again, in a survival situation. I can use it to kill small game.
Good luck.
Here I have an IR transmitter. So again, if I'm needing to evade, I have the means to signal friendly forces by means of infrared. The package comes with a 9-volt battery and an IR beacon that clips right on, and every second it will emit a flash. It can be handheld, or I can mount it to a helmet. Here in front of me, I have some other specialized items.
So you notice that is very, very compact.
Items that I would use for mission specific. Starting on my right here, I will always have a data book, and also with what we call a quarterback sleeve. If you notice, it'll go right in my forearm here, and I can keep shooting data readily accessible.
Yep, that's called his dope book, Data on Previous Engagements. And it's sort of your own record of your particular rifle, especially you shooting in the current environment. And it's going to help you get a sense of how exactly your rounds are going to perform.
Here, an extra piece of veil I can use to help mask my visual signature. I can put it in front of me or help it to drape over my weapon.
Right, and sometimes that veil, if it's really close to the optic, it actually won't interfere with the optic sight at all.
Here I have additional or spare paracord.
This is another one of those things. So what's interesting is I actually like bungee cords, but I also always bring paracord on every backpacking trip and in every field exercise. Yeah, it's interesting if you're like, man, Paul, why do you talk so much about backpacking? Because to me, the backpacking experiences I've had have only built on my like military skill sets, right? The military culture, I realize, is like a little antiquated in a lot of what it does in terms of like weight and optimization and packing and gear. And I frankly still bring a lot of that military aspects in my packouts, but there's so much. I feel like it's only an evolution. That said, this is a staple of both.
For a 550 cord, I would use this to help me refine or build a better firing position, or I can use this when I have overhead cover. Pruning shears here. Use these for my smaller or thinner pieces of vegetation, what I would use to fill inside my ghillie suit. Here I have a portable handsaw. This is literally a chain from a chainsaw. It has wrist straps and handles, and I can just saw back and forth. I can use this to cut down larger pieces of lumber or thicker trees that my pruning shears will not be able to handle. I can use it to help me conceal my position in the rural environment. Face paint.
I mean, one of the things to remember is that you have to be careful about what you're cutting down where, because it's very obvious if a tree has been cut down by a person, especially something like a chainsaw. So you want to make sure that it's where you're removing vegetation is not somewhere that the enemy will likely arrive from. It won't be from one of their avenues of approach.
I would also use to apply this to help me blend into the rural surroundings. I would say it's similar to what you'd find at a party city when you do costume face paint, hunting face paint as well. Here in front of me, I have a few items that I would use for an urban setting. I have various lengths of screen I would use to help conceal my position.
Yeah, one of the things that people always talk about is in sniper operations, an untrained sniper will lean out a window so that their rifle barrel will stick out of the window, and it will be very obvious to an external observer where that person is. Whereas an experienced sniper will sit back in the window, right? So while they'll have a narrower field of view, a good sniper will be able to understand that, hey, I don't have to see that far to my left and right. I just need to see down this road or that road. And that's going to make a tremendous difference. Right, so you want to make sure, so having screen, the ability to make it hard for the enemy to guess, even if they know what building the shot came from, you don't want to make it easy to tell what window it came from.
With that, metal clamps to help me hold these securely, and that is all the gear a U.S. Army sniper could use on a mission.
Yeah, probably one example, right? Obviously, they're going to have they're going to do what the mission dictates, right? If they're in Overwatch, totally different gear set, or not totally different, but a somewhat different gear set. If they're, overwatching a raid or something like that, or reconning a target, or again, doing an approach, kill and leave type deal. Okay, guys.
So I said, no, it was supposed to be my pentakill. Why did you do that to me?